Hey guys, welcome to the Formless Guide, a space for self-inquiry and guided awareness. Today, we turn the light of awareness towards one of the most pervasive forces that finds itself constantly shaping our reality: delusion. This is not a session about diagnosing others, but about performing an act of precise, compassionate surgery on the self. Delusion is the simple architecture that we build when we are resistant to what is. It is the story we tell ourselves to justify a feeling of separation, whether it manifests as a large societal narrative or a whisper in the heart of a spiritual practice. Delusion prevents the direct, unmediated experience of truth. Let us proceed with courage and curiosity. Now, what is delusion at its root? It is the act of misidentification. It is mistaking the dream for waking life, mistaking the symptom for the cause. The truth is flow, unity, and impermanence. Delusion is the attempt to convince oneself that reality is static, separate, or absolutely defined by the ego's fear. Delusion is the story of not enough. It whispers that peace is only located outside of this moment, in a future event, a past validation, or a fixed identity. This creates endless chasing, which is the engine for suffering. Delusion is separation. It fosters the belief that your inner experience is completely independent of the whole, giving rise to judgment, projection, and the sense of being fundamentally different or alone. Imagine holding a detailed map in your hands. Delusion is the belief that the map is the territory. You spend your life studying the paper, memorizing the lines, arguing over the ink. Yet you never lift your eyes to actually see the mountain, to feel the wind, or to walk the true path. When we look outward, we see delusion magnified into societal systems. These are the large stories that entire cultures agree to believe. There's political and economic delusion. Consider the delusion of a permanent scarcity, the belief that resources are fundamentally limited, creating competition and fear, even when abundance seems visible, or the delusion of absolute ideology, where one political or cultural framework is believed to be the sole, unchanging truth, justifying exclusion and creating conflict. Now there's the delusion of identity. The world thrives on the delusion that your worth is tied to your material accumulation, your professional title, or just your social status. These are temporary roles, yet we attach the weight of eternity to them, allowing a temporary label to dictate our state of being. These systems are built on reinforcing stories that keep the attention external, fearful, and divided. They are complex structures of misidentification that benefit from your willingness to believe the map is real. The antidote here is simply to question the unquestioned, to pause when fear arises and ask, is this story true in my direct experience right now? Or is it a narrative I inherited? To truly dismantle delusion, we must locate it in the body. The ancient systems of chakra mapping create a precise coordinate for where these false stories sit in our energy field, in our psyche, enhancing our awareness. Let's begin with Muladhara, the root chakra's delusion. This is the delusion of absolute insecurity. The belief that you are fundamentally unsafe, not supported by the it, or that you must fight simply to exist. Its fear is existential. Next, we have Svadhisthana, the sacral chakra's delusion. This is the delusion of ownership and control over pleasure. The belief that happiness is dependent on possessing external objects, relationships, or continuous stimulation, creating cycles of addiction and craving. Its focus is external attachment. We have Manipura, the solar plexus delusion. This is the delusion of external power. The belief that your true value comes from controlling others, achieving recognition, or enforcing rigid rules. This generates the belief that your worth must be proven constantly. Its drive is egoic dominance. Next we have Anahata, the heart center. Here we have a delusion of conditional love. The belief that acceptance, peace, or worth must be earned through adhering to certain rules or belonging to a specific group, creating separation while pursuing unity. Its resistance is transactional love. Now we have Vishuddha, the throat chakra's delusion. This is the delusion of silence or absolute noise. Either the inability to express your authentic truth due to fear, or the delusion that you must constantly preach or proclaim your knowledge to be valid. Its conflict is between self-expression and honesty. Now, when you identify a persistent delusion, I'd like you to breathe into its energetic location by anchoring the investigation to the body, the mind, and the spirit. The story loses its purely mental hold. This is where the work becomes most subtle. The most tenacious forms of delusion often hide within the very search of truth. The transformation of the guide. We must honor the intention of systems like Christianity, the occult, or specific spiritual philosophies. These were intended guides, maps pointing toward unity, ethical living, and connection with the divine. The delusion begins when the map is turned into a fortress, when the ritual, the dogma, or the organizational structure now becomes more important than the direct experience of grace or compassion that it was meant to facilitate. The system itself now becomes a barrier. The student becomes attached to the knowledge about God rather than the living reality of God, consciousness. The delusion of spiritual superiority. This is the belief that possessing unique initiation, a spiritual title, or membership in an exclusive group makes one better than others. This fosters an ego, often denser than the mundane ego it sought to transcend. This is the avoidance of difficult, dense emotions by using spiritual concepts. For example, labeling intense anxiety as low vibration can be an essential initial guide. It creates space for understanding that a shift is possible. The delusion, however, is when we stop there. When we use the label not as a guide, but as a rigid tool to resist the anxiety and avoid the deeper work of presence and compassion. We use the words of freedom to build a stronger cage. Any attachment, even attachment to an identity, as enlightened, detaching, or aware, is a subtle structure of delusion. All of these things happen in a fluid, ever changing manner. So, what is said here is to not attach to any specific label, understand them, and then grow within them. The solution to delusion is not complexity, it is simplicity. It is the practice of returning to the truth that cannot be argued with, which is this moment, right now. The formless antidote can be seen as twofold. One, radical presence, something known as Sati. Delusion lives in the past story or the future fear. It cannot survive in the present moment. Here, we embrace the wisdom of Theravada Buddhism, Sati, or continuous, unbroken mindfulness. Gently redirect your attention to the feeling of your breath, the sensation of your body, the undeniable reality of what is right now. Second, we have the non judgmental observation, otherwise known as Vipassana. Do not fight the delusional story. Fighting it gives it energy. Instead, observe it, as if it were a cloud that's passing in the sky. This is the practice of Vipassana, or insight, recognizing the story's fundamental nature, impermanence, by not attaching your identity to the thought. The delusion now loses its power to define you. The moment you become truly willing to accept reality exactly as it is, without requiring it to conform to a spiritual rule, a political narrative, or an old faith, the architecture of delusion begins to dissolve naturally. So, in conclusion, my beloved seekers, you are not the story. You are the awareness in which the story appears. Your power is not in crafting a perfect truth, no, but in dissolving all that is false. Every time you refuse to believe a story of separation or fear, you dismantle a brick in the wall of delusion. Continue this practice. Don't give up. Keep going. Thank you for seeking, for listening, and for choosing to see clearly. Until the next inquiry, remain open, curious, formless, and free. This is your Formless Guide, signing off.